What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Ask Alex, where this is the show where I take all your questions and answer them here on this show. But today I have a special interview with Miss Angela. How do you pronounce your last name again? I'm sorry.
Matemotja, you got it.
Matemotja. She's been in numerous projects. I recently just started studying her and her work. And before we get into her work, Miss Angela, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for having me on, Alex. This is so cool. Yeah, I'm an actor. First and foremost, that's sort of the foundation of everything I do comes from acting. But I'm also a writer and director and independent film producer as well.
Now that's amazing. I know when we were speaking off camera, we were talking about your film, which we'll get into a little bit later. But as an aspiring actor slash director myself, how did you get started in this business?
In this business, I got started as an actor. So I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts a long time ago. So that's where I did my training. And then soon after that, I moved to New York City. So I really sort of got my feet wet in the theater. That's, again, my foundation. It's also the first time I directed was also in the theater. So I did loads of theater in New York. After that, I did some touring with which now it's called the American Shakespeare Company, I believe. But at the time, it was the Shenandoah Shakespeare Company. But they're based out of the Folgers Library, I believe. I'm not even sure. But yeah, they're in D.C. now. And then after that, I went to England for some time and did some work there again in the theater. But it basically started in the theater.
Now that's really cool because in college I did theater as well. And I recently, well, not recently, but I decided during the time in college, I was like, I lived in a small area and I put out my very first short film. It was based off a comic book character. And since that point on, I had the bug to direct and produce and edit and all that good stuff. And when you mentioned earlier that you were you directed some stuff in theater and acted in theater. What was your very first like official acting job outside of school?
Outside of school, gosh, that's a little tricky because outside of school, at the American Academy, at the end of it, we do these things called exam plays, right? This is your final play. And we did a piece called A Piece of My Heart that went really well. So even though we had already graduated that summer, we ended up putting it up at a performance outside of school at the Wadsworth Theater in West Los Angeles. And that was like my first paycheck was that gig. And then after that, I did a lot of theater, like I said, in New York. But my first, again, paying gig, I think was the touring show with the Shenandoah Shakespeare Company.
Oh, okay. Now that's actually really cool. I actually know a couple people who've gone through that company and they're now like doing producing and that kind of cool stuff. And I wanted to ask you, I recently, like literally like 2-3 days ago, saw the movie Single Moms Club.
Oh my God.
And I saw you in that film.
Yes.
And which is really cool. I'm a huge Tyler Perry fan. How did you get connected with Tyler Perry and get to be in that film?
Gosh, well, that was, so that happened years later, back in Los Angeles after London and being in New York, I just started auditioning for television, for film. And that was a part that my agent had sent me out on and I went and auditioned. So yeah, that was fun.
Now, what was it like being on set, interacting with the different actors? And did you get to meet like Tyler Perry and the staff and stuff like that?
Yeah, he directed that. He directed and wrote that piece. So he was on set. His set is it's a very well-oiled machine. I believe he worked with the same people over and over. So you are literally in and out. Maybe 3 takes, this angle, done. Thank you very much. You did a great job. He's wonderful.
Oh wow! Now it's funny. I interviewed someone, I can't remember, it escapes my mind, who said the same thing about working with him in particular, because you're not there. You're probably going to be there one day, do your scenes, and then that's it.
And that's it.
And I wanted to ask you, because you do have a lot of good acting credits in terms of TV and movies. Is that a normal thing, or is that just depends on the director?
It depends on the director. It really does. Yeah, I mean, and you know, he's been making movies for how long now? So he knows what he's doing. Sometimes on smaller sets with newer directors, it's a little bit different because they're still trying to figure things out, you know? Every set is so different. It's so different.
Now, there's this one TV show I want to talk about that you were on. It's actually called Save Me. And,
oh my gosh, how do you know about that?
like, it's funny, like my mom watches that show, and like for some reason I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this with my mom. And I was looking at your IMDb credits as I was preparing for interview, and I didn't know you were on the show. You were on the show as a cashier, so I went back through some archives of episodes and I saw you on there. And I just wanted to know, because my mom, again, she loves that show. How did it come about when you landed that audition and just got on that role and just become a part of that show?
Yeah, that was just for the one episode, but I'm tripping out because they shot, I believe, a whole season, but I don't believe it ever got picked up. So how did your mom even find it? Like, where is it?
So it's like, so for instance, like back in the days, we didn't have, well, it's not really too far, but we don't have cable. So what we would do is that we would download certain apps. I'm not going to say them publicly because they might be illegal, but there are certain apps where there are shows that didn't get greenlanded for series.
Yes.
So some of those pilots are online.
Amazing.
So I saw, like, me and my mom, we saw it. And I think there's actually a couple more episodes of that show. I mean, this was like maybe a year or so ago, but we would watch different pilots because in my hometown, Pensacola, there's this thing called Pensacon, where people go to Pensacon and there's a lot of vendors there. There's a particular vendor who sells shows that are not on DVD, so they're like only on streaming only, and shows that have not been picked up. And again,
they sell shows that maybe did one episode?
Yeah,
I need to talk to you about this offline then.
Those two, and like they sell them at Comic-Con and at Pensacon, which is Comic-Con. And my mom, again, like we would go, she would pick certain things up. And my mom she's not, I wouldn't call her weird, but she likes to do and watch different things,
stuff, yeah.
Exactly, things that we can't see. So when we saw it on the DVD, I want to say it was like maybe 2 or 3 episodes. And at the time when the person was selling it, he sold it for no more than like $10. We saw it, and yeah, you can find these things. And again, I'll tell you off camera what they are.
Interesting. I don't know how okay, interesting.
But I wanted to ask you, you also have some writing credits as well. As a writer myself, how do you get what's the normal steps of getting your scripts out to film studios or even TV networks?
I've never actually gone that route. So everything I've written, I've just produced myself. I've never handed a script of mine over to someone and say, hey, do something with this. The very thought of that just makes me nervous. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I figure out a way to just make it myself. I have not done that yet. I've never sent a script to somebody and say, what do you think? Or please produce this. Or, I just create something and make it so far.
Now, how did you get linked up with Spotlight? Because Spotlight, one of their actors he's a voice actor. His name is Yuri. I forget his last name. He's actually the voice actor of one of my favorite video games called Spider-Man's on the PS4.
Oh, wow.
And initially when I reached out to Spotlight, I wanted to interview him, but he's like super, super busy. But I spoke with Tammy, and I told her I'll interview anybody on your roster. I'm very interested. So I wanted to know, how did you get linked up with Spotlight? And talking to Tammy, she's very nice, really cool. Yeah. I just want to know, how did you get linked up to them?
We've been in similar circles over years. So we know a lot of the same people. We've just sort of always kind of known each other. And I really love her work and how, passionate she is about her clients. So we just sort of, connected. It's just sort of been a process over years. We just kind of happen to, so-and-so, you know how that works.
Right,
and
right.
Business is so much about that. It's so much about relationships.
Oh yeah, and that was my next question. Like, how, as an actor, how important are established relationships in the particular field that you're in?
I think as an actor, as a screenwriter, as a director, as a producer, all of it, it's all about relationships. Especially if you want to create your own content and produce your own project and not have to wait for somebody else to give you the okay. The more people you know that do other things, the better. Because you can grab those people and say, hey, I have a script, you direct, you want to look at it, or whatever. You have an actor that you like, oh, I have a part for you. What do you think? That's literally how I've created my projects, is literally with my friends.
No,
relationships.
No, that's very inspiring because I like I was telling my wife earlier, like I'm planning on, in terms of the near future, to produce more projects and casting people and all that stuff. And I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about this earlier off camera, about your film called Elevate. Now, your agent had sent it to me, and she had sent me the photos, and I just clicked on the link, and I just saw I think 1 or 2 clips on your IMDb page, and from what I saw from it, it's really cool. I want you to tell the audience, like, initially what it's about, and how did it come together when you were putting this all together?
Sure. Elevate is a drama. It's a drama of intertwining stories, where our heroes and the villains in the stories sort of have to overcome their struggles or demons that they have with homophobia, racism, and food addiction. So that's it in a nutshell. So it's a pretty intense piece, but there's some comedy in it too, which I love. And the way it came together was just over time. It started out as a short film that I wrote. I was not in it. And I asked, one of my best friends to be in it. And we made the short. And then I made another film. And then I just slowly started expanding it. It just kind of happened. It wasn't really the plan.
No, that's actually cool, because initially when I was watching the clips, I assumed, because when I was talking to Tammy, I assumed that it had been out in theaters. So I was like, dang, I missed this. Like, how did I miss this? And after she explained it to me, showed it to me, it was basically one of your personal projects that you're going to put on streaming services. And where can people like me and just others can find that film? Because I believe it came out like a couple days ago, right?
Yes, it's streaming now. We were on the festival circuit for a while, so we screened at a couple awesome, really terrific film festivals. So that was great. So now that we're at one of the festivals, we ended up getting a sales agent, then getting distribution. So now that it's out, that part of the journey is sort of over, but now it is online. So anyone that's on Amazon Prime or iTunes or Fandango now, YouTube, Google Play, Voodoo, all these online streaming services, Elevate, or you can go to elevatefilm.com to kind of learn more.
Now that is amazing. So I wanted to ask you, because this is something, as from a director standpoint, what I struggle with is casting, and I wanted to know what do you believe is the proper way to go about casting? Because I can tell you that in most of my films, well, actually all of my films, I only have 3 of them. All of my casting are just friends, But I want to go outside of that and do casting with people that I don't know. So how would I go? Not just me, but in general, how would someone go about doing those types of things?
It's, so much has changed. So much casting today is done online. Believe it or not. But when we first had our initial casting sessions, we had people come in. So you send out a breakdown, on breakdown services, 2 agents or just to actors. You decide, who you want to send it to, depending on whether your project is union or non-union, right? And then you just hold auditions. You hold auditions. I personally, I just helped cast another film, a different project that we're currently in post-production on.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have people send in video clips first just to introduce themselves, because I don't want to look at hundreds of auditions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just from the video clip, just hello, my name is so-and-so, just off their vibe, I would then decide, okay, let's see more. Then we would send them the actual audition.
Okay, now I wanted to ask you, because at some point I will go to Los Angeles, but I live here in Orlando, and there's always been a myth since I was a child. If you go to Los Angeles or New York, but more so Los Angeles, and you do acting consistently, at some point you will make it. Like LA, somewhat the promised land of getting, or not necessarily promised land, but it's the way to go to get to where you need to be. And I wanted to ask you, because you've been doing this for a while, is that partially true, or is that just not true at all?
Like I said, this business has changed so much in the last 5-10 years. I have friends, actor friends, that have been in this business for a long time, seeking agents in New Mexico, seeking agents in Atlanta, seeking agents in Louisiana, because there's work everywhere. As you know, there's so many different shows. They shoot everywhere. Back in the day, everything was shot in LA and New York. Now, Canada, I mean, everywhere. So I don't think you need to necessarily be in LA, especially when you're just trying to build your credits. I think it's almost better that you're not. And if you're in a town that has a lot of opportunity, a lot of production, like Atlanta does right now, North Carolina did for a bit, I mean, there's opportunity everywhere. And you can create your own opportunity as well as you build your credits. Then move, I would suggest.
Now, what are the struggles that you had to go through, not necessarily in your personal life, but just like personally, in terms of going through the acting and the casting? Like, you know, I know for me, I've only done like a couple casting calls, and I've been told no, and I understand how that feels, but I just want to know from your perspective, like aside from casting calls, what struggles have you gone through in this business in general?
I think for me, because I'd done so much theater, and you know, I toured, I worked in England, so I felt like I was a very competent actor. I'm trained. I've done I don't know how many plays. I've toured freaking Shakespeare. To then try to get your first television role, which is just one line, felt almost impossible. So that transition is kind of funky when you don't have your first TV credit yet. That first television credit for me was challenging. Just to get that first credit, it was like, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? I've done all this. Is not enough, you know?
Now, does it? I want to ask, like, because I recently turned 26 a few months ago. For me as a young man, I just want it now. Like, I want to be like now. I don't necessarily need to be like super famous. Like, I don't need to be Matemotja or anything like that. But for me, I want it like I want to be on projects, and I want my projects to be on bigger projects. So how, as a young director / actor like me, like get out of the mindset of, okay, it's a process? Because I can tell you now, directing, it looks easy, but it's definitely not. It's not easy at all.
You have to think of the big picture, and you have to keep creating your own content, I think. Keep writing, keep directing, keep doing your thing as you're going for the bigger things. But get your craft honed, become the best writer you can become the best director, get in class, stay in class, and keep creating content. Because the worst thing to happen is to get the opportunity and you're not ready.
Now,
so be ready.
Yeah, like,
you know, and keep creating.
Yeah, like currently now, like, and I really haven't announced this as much, but I'm currently writing like 3 separate films, and I'm just trying to get them all together. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking about your film Elevate that you went through its normal film circuit run, and I don't have an IMDb page, but I have this page called Film Freeway, which allows me to take my projects to different film what is it, festivals. Festivals. And is there, aside from online, is there other ways of getting your projects to film festivals?
I believe you just submit online, if it's a feature, sometimes it could be helpful to have a sales rep. This is something I just learned. There are sales representatives that will represent your film, and they will reach out to the film festival on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always say yes, but some of the bigger festivals get so much content. So I think sometimes having someone else root for your film, whether it's a sales rep, someone in the film, another producer, someone at that festival. And that's really important too, is to go to film festivals. So then when you do have a film, you can say, hey, I was there last year. I met you. Here's my film. Relationships. Again, it's relationships.
Now, there's two questions I wanted to ask you, but there's one question I really wanted to ask you is that currently, according to IMDb, and I wanted to ask you, you are currently filming a short film now. It's called, what was it? I just
had The Good Balloon.
Yeah, The Good Balloon. Now, could you tell us what The Good Balloon is? When I first read it, it kind of seemed like it was an animated movie, but I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to ask, what is that? What is that film, and when can we see it as as people who are fans of yours?
I was brought on to direct this project. I did not write it. I'm not in it. This wonderful actor and writer, producer, Lita Lopez, reached out to me sometime last year to direct her film. But I couldn't, because I was just in the film festival circuit with Elevate, and I was getting ready to get Elevate out to the world. So finally, we started pre-production, I think in maybe February or March. All of May, we shot and had rehearsals. So we just wrapped production a couple weeks ago. So we're going to start editing, hopefully by the end of July.
Oh, okay. Now
so I can get through them all and start making my choices for the clips.
Now, is that going to go through its normal run as well through the festivals, or are you guys just going to put it out online?
No, we want to go to the festivals for sure. Again, it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to, meet festival programmers, especially if you are an actor, to meet other directors. It's all about relationships. So we will be taking it to the festival circuit. We'll submit everywhere. And then after that, I imagine we'll, get an aggregator to get it online.
Now, I did want to ask, this is kind of somewhat of a side question. I did want to ask, what is the difference between working on TV versus working on films? Because when I look at, and again, I've never been
as a director or an actor,
or both. Like I've never been on an official set, but what I've heard from some of my acting and directing fans, it's two different animals. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, how are they different, or are they the same?
It depends. As a director. And again, it also depends on who the producer is. And I kind of went through this with The Good Balloon. I've never directed television. I've been on plenty of sets as an actor, of course, but I do know that with television, you're hired to come on as a director. So when you come on as a director, you're coming on a show that hopefully is already on the air. They have their series regulars. They use the same DP, same gaffers, same crew. So this television show, you're just the guest.
Right.
You, the director, are the guest. So from my experience, and I have shadowed on a couple big shows, you as the director, it's different from film, because with film, it's your vision. It's the director's vision. With television, sometimes it is if you're the showrunner, but it's really the showrunner's vision. It's the executive producer's vision. It's really not the director's. The director is kind of there to make sure they get all the coverage. They capture everything they need to capture. And of course, there's some opportunity to do a little of your own thing. But a show that already has a very specific look and vibe, you can't just come in and change it as the director, because the audience is expecting the show is going to go like this, like it is every week. So your limits are a little bit different. You're a little bit boxed in, but in that you can still find ways to be creative and, kind of show your own flair, but you have to work within the parameters of the show that's already been created. Having said that, though, on a pilot, that's almost like doing film, because then it is your vision. The audience doesn't have any expectations yet. You're creating the show from scratch. So it depends. Is it a new show? Is it, the pilot episode? Or are you coming in onto a CSI to, direct episode 12?
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to, my last and final question I wanted to ask you, and those are some awesome points you gave earlier. Will we ever see you do a project of your own, like a superhero project, or will you ever be, or have you ever considered being in something like in a Marvel film or a DC film or a Marvel TV show or a DC TV show or something on their streaming service? I mean, there's so many things. Like I've always asked actors, if you were to do something like that, which one would you go to, or would you want to do it at all?
To be perfectly honest, as an actor, I would love any opportunity that seems interesting, and that definitely would. Because I don't know anything about those shows. Like that's not even, I don't watch, I know nothing about superheroes. It's horrible. But I don't know that universe. But I think it'd be fun to explore as an actor, you know, and to have a look at some of those shows. I know they're huge, but my taste is more independent, more independent.
Now, oh, I'm glad you said that. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you too long, but I love independent films. Like that's kind of the reason why I go to stuff like Pensacon and CinemaCon, because there are like these directors that you may not know who sell their projects, and again, I'll tell you that website that I found,
Yes.
but I find them online too, and I'm like, it teaches me stuff. And who are your who are your influences when you're either directing, writing, acting, producing, anything? Like who influences you to do what you're currently doing now?
Right. I don't know stylistically if these are correct, but I love their sort of attitudes. Tyler Perry, for one, and Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, these are
Oh
very
man.
different directors, very different. But what I love about them is they write their own projects, they direct their own projects, they know who their audience is, and they don't care whether you like them or not. They don't care what the critics think. So I love their sort of bravery, if you will, of just going for it and doing what they want and not necessarily worry about fitting into this or that. Like, this is what I do. You like me or not? So I love that. But as far as stylistically, I mean, obviously Spielberg, everyone loves Spielberg. But The Color Purple is one of my ultimate favorite films. Louis Malle is a fantastic director. I love a lot of Woody Allen stuff. Right now, the Duplass brothers, I love their work. Yeah, so kind of all over the map, but a lot of independent creators as well.
Now that's actually really amazing. Mine's were Spielberg, as you said, but mine's is also Tyler Perry, F. Gary Gray, and this one guy that I've been following closely. His name is Troy Skinner. So like it's a lot of Troy Skinner is more so of an independent filmmaker, but
Cool.
he's also an acting coach in Los Angeles as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
but there's just so many other people who influence me in those areas. But I wanted to ask you as well, because we talked about earlier, how you got into this business. As far as your family, were they is your family like a family of actors as well? Like, like the Jacksons are a family of singers?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. But having said that, in Elevate, I needed a very specific type of actor. He needed to be an older South African man. So I had auditions, for that role, and I just could not find the guy, right? Based on one of my uncles. I asked my dad to play the role.
Oh wow, that is amazing!
And it's so funny because when we go to festivals, when people see the film, they love him. And I'm like, yes, perfect casting. I knew it.
And what was the character that he plays again?
Sipo. He's a South African man in Elevate.
Oh, okay. So I'm definitely going to peep that as soon as
He's fantastic. He's fantastic.
Oh wow. Oh man. Thank you so much, Angela, for being on the show. Is there anyone is there anywhere people can find you on social media and the projects that you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. Go to elevatefilm.com, elevatefilm.com. I'm on Instagram at Elevate Film as well. On Twitter, Matemotja Films. And then what's the other one? Angela Matemotja, also on Instagram, and AngelaMatemotja.com. Although the last name might be tricky to spell. So Elevate Film, you can find everything from there.
Oh wow! Now that is amazing. I want to thank you again once again on being on the show. I really do appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry, because I see it on my notes. Who's the most famous person that you met, whether it's actor, director, or whoever?
Most famous person that I've met.
Aside from yourself.
Most famous. I don't know. Who's the most famous? Who's famous? Maybe Tyler Perry, huh? I didn't think about that. Probably maybe Tyler Perry. Is that right?
Possibly. I mean, you were on.
It's hard to say because, like, who's famous? Neil Patrick Harris I worked with. I guess he's pretty famous, right?
Yeah, but I would say that he's, in my opinion,
more famous than Tyler Perry. I don't know.
I think he's probably famous than more than Tyler Perry.
I worked with Kevin Hart. He's pretty.
Oh, well, where'd you work with him at?
It was his first feature film. This is years ago. It was his first lead. He was the first lead, and it was a really cute, wonderful comedy by director Russ Parr called Something Like a Business. And I just had a scene with Kevin Hart. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Kevin Hart, but he wasn't as big then as he is now.
Yeah, I remember those days. I'm not. I probably have seen that movie because I'm a huge Kevin Hart fan. But it's wow! I didn't even know you worked with him. Like wow, that's amazing.
So maybe Kevin Hart and Angela Bassett. I've met. I've never worked with her, but I have met her. So maybe Angela Bassett or Kevin Hart. I don't know.
Oh wow! And it's funny that you mentioned Angela Bassett because when I spoke to Tammy and she told me who I would be interviewing, at first, and I read it incorrectly. I thought she said Angela Bassett, and I was like, what? The Queen of Wakanda? Oh wow! Oh, by the way, just side question: did you ever see Black Panther? And if you did you like it?
I did like it. I did. I thought it was so huge, and the world that was created and the colors. It was visually outstanding, and it had everything in it. It had action, had drama, it had ancestral stuff. It had so much happening. I thought it was fantastic.
I asked all of the people I interviewed, have you guys seen Black Panther, and tell me what they think about it. Because I mean, I love the movie. I wear this hat all the time, the Black Panther hat, and one day I will create Wakanda, hopefully. But I want to thank you again, Miss Angela, for being on the show. I will definitely send you the link to this interview. It will release this coming up Monday. And I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the bell on that channel to get all my notifications on my channel. And also, since we did this interview, please go check out Miss Angela's content. I've seen some of it, and it's really good. The things that I've seen are really good. She just put out a really good really good film called Elevate, which I will see after this interview. And from what I have seen, it is really amazing. I can't wait to take a good look at it. Thank you once again, Miss Angela, for being on the show. We really do appreciate it.
Alex, for having me. This was so much fun.
Anytime. I would love to have you back as well. Thank you guys for watching this video, and as always, you have a blessed day. Thank you guys for watching this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube page to get more exclusive content coming from my YouTube channel. And if you want to watch my previous videos, go ahead and click on this video up here or this video down here, where you get to see more exclusive content coming from my channel. Thank you guys for watching this video, and you guys have a blessed day.